Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2493. Today, we're going to be talking hot rods. So buckle up and be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in the desert in Laveen, Arizona, with a very special guest by the name of Ron Carlsten. Ron, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Absolutely. Let's pin it to win it.
There you go. I love that. So before we get started and talk about your world as Hot Rod Ron, I love that. What's one little thing, though, that people may not know about Hot Rod Ron?
Well, I moved to a new house in Laveen. Originally, I was based in downtown Phoenix, and I moved out to Laveen, which is a little more of a country setting. And obviously, because we're in the desert, we have lots of saguaros, lots of cactus. And so now I'm trying my hand at cactus farming, see how well I can do at growing cactus.
You know, this is cool because my daughter and her little ones and her husband live in northern northern Phoenix, actually, Scottsdale area.
Yep.
And we go and visit a lot now with these little rugrats, you know, that we love so much. And you and I had a great chat before because way back when I was quite little, I lived in Tucson for a while. And maybe that's where my love for cactus come from for some reason. Even though I grew up in Southern California, they've got cactus. Cactus just, it intrigues me. And maybe it was that time that jumping cactus jumped on me when I was a little kid because I crashed into it on my Schwinn Stingray. But what is it? Now, when you say cactus farming, people are probably going that don't live in the desert going, how do you farm cactus? Do you grow it and eat it?
Right. Well, there are certain cactus that you can eat, you know, depending on how you harvest it. When I say cactus farming, that is maybe farming is not the exact right word I should be using. Trying my hand at growing cactus is probably a little more accurate because last summer in the Phoenix surrounding valley, so Scottsdale, like where your family is, last summer we had 55 days straight of 115 or hotter degree weather. I
went to visit. I tuned in my daughter. I said, "Why'd you move here? Oh my God, it's hot."
And so we are starting to see in southern Arizona and a little bit in California stuff. We're starting to see where these extreme temperatures that last so much longer that they're really starting to actually take out some cactus.
Even the cactus can't handle it.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you look at a saguaro, so for a lot of people that grew up in the 70s watching Bugs Bunny Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, you would see these funny shaped cactus. Well, those are called saguaros. And so they can be, 25 feet, 30 feet tall, have multiple arms. Those are the ones that are now starting to go away, and they're hundreds of years old. And so doing a lot of research from where I went to college at University of Arizona, they have an entire pharmacology program there. And so I contacted them and said, is there any way to save, once they fall to the ground, is there any way to save like the arms and try to replant them? And they said, yeah, you got to use sulfur and a special mix of soil. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try that. Well, I had one fall on my property not too long ago, and I harvested 2 of the arms and planted them, and it looks like it's going to work.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I had no idea you could do that. I know they get very old, and if you have cacti on your property, this may be a silly question, but can you overwater cactus?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. You don't really want to give them a lot of water because they'll actually rot out from the bottom and it'll kill them. And so they're more used to the type of monsoons that we get. Monsoons is when we get our heavy rains that happen twice a year, and that's really all they need for saguaros. For other cactus, like a paddle cactus, which is kind of like shaped like a dinner plate, that's a little bit different. That one I have found to be super easy to grow, and it will take as much water as you want to give it, up to a point like any other plant. I assume that you give it too much, you're going to kill it. So
yeah, unless you live here in the Pacific Northwest, everything here loves lots of water. Yeah, that's why our trees are so big.
I would totally visit your area, but I would never live there because I can't handle that much rain.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to. I've been here 30 years now, and some winters I still when is the sun going to come out? Help us, please. Absolutely. Well, that's very fascinating. Well, next time I come visit the little ones, I'll have to come and visit you. And
absolutely. You're more than welcome.
Farm. That'll be cool. Let me give you a proper introduction here. Hot Rod Ron Carlsten is a longtime fixture in the traditional hot rod world who promoted some of the first nostalgia hot rod shows in southern Arizona. His Checkered Strip Productions in Phoenix, Arizona, and formerly in Tucson, Arizona, are very well known. He's a custom car builder and hot rod culture broker who's been building cars since 1984 and has built multiple vehicles that have been featured in numerous magazines ranging from Volkswagen to hot rods. Ron's an experienced car appraiser who's worked for numerous commercial and community stations, managed bands, worked as a booking agent, content creator, and as a moderator for online communities. He has curated art shows at major galleries featuring hot rod art, hosted major annual car shows as well. He is having fun. We'll be back in just a minute, but first a word from our sponsor, so don't touch that cactus. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. Their talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and first-hand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com. Are you ready to take charge of your financial future? Then let me introduce you to Capitalize Your Finances. It's an online course designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools for mastering your money. This course will help you lay out the ins and outs of budgeting, the importance of emergency funds, investing strategies, and how to plan for a secure retirement. All this presented by financial planner Chris Paniotu. Chris has developed this course to help you effectively navigate your world of finance with confidence. Stop stressing about money and start taking control. Enroll in Capitalize Your Finance online course today and pave your way to financial success. To learn more, go to capitalizepodcast.com/courses, or better yet, go to the Cars Yeah website, show notes page for today's show, and click on the link under Capitalize Your Finances. You'll be glad you did. Do it today. So, Ron, I want to go back in time a little bit here. How did this hot rod culture ingrain itself into your life? And then once we talk about that, I want to talk about how you've really made a life around this passion, because that's what Cars Yeah is all about. People that have wrapped this passion for vehicles into a lot of, well, you've wrapped it into many aspects of your life, very unique individual. But when did this all start for you?
So this all started way, way back when I was really little. My father had a regular white-collar job, but on the weekends, he was an avid motorcycle racer. And so that's kind of where it started. He was racing timed enduros where you had certain checkpoints and you had to show up at a certain time, and you had like maybe 10 minutes before or 10 minutes after that, a window that you could be in. And the closer you were to your designated time, the better your score would be. And so being his pit crew with my mom and my sister, that's kind of where it all got started. And then he had been in a car club in the 50s with his brother, and they had built a couple cars from there. And so when we got a little bit older, he was like, I want to get back into cars. So he bought a 55 Ford Victoria 2-door hardtop that we as a family completely restored. My mom did all the interior.
Oh, wow.
He did the full body and paint, rust repair. And that's where I kind of learned how to work on cars and get started on doing body work and paint. From that, it led to my career where I wanted to become an insurance adjuster for large insurance companies, where I could walk into body shops and see all kinds of different cars being worked on and being built. And as I continued to build my own cars and became more ingrained into wanting to learn how to be an insurance adjuster, I became ICAR certified. ICAR is a national board across the United States that certifies people to help write correct estimates and also work in body shops doing the correct repairs the way the manufacturers want the cars repaired so they're safe to be put back on the road. So I was heavily involved in that for 30, 35 years, along with still building all the cars, building cars with my dad. And then also with the music aspect, was a punk rock kid, Gen X. skateboarding, BMX, freestyle BMX, racing motorcycles, and then going to punk rock shows. All this music kind of came together. And in the punk rock world, we have a saying called DIY, do it yourself. So you don't rely on anybody. It's up to you or your group of friends to make stuff happen. And so being ingrained in that, it was like, well, let's do this punk rock show and let's have these guys come play, and it'll play at somebody's backyard. Or, hey, we found this warehouse that they're willing to rent to us for one day. We can throw a show there. And in the middle of all of this, we're all building cars. And so I started with Volkswagens or mini, some guys had mini trucks. I started with cowl look Volkswagens. And as we got better at building our cars, we started looking at the hot rod guys, and we're like, God, we'd love to have hot rods, but they're just too expensive because they've got tweed interior and super bright paint and all this chrome and air conditioning, power steering, power brakes. And it was like, oh, these cars are so amazing, but we can never afford to do that because I'm driving around in a $500 Bug that I lowered myself by cutting the springs and shaving my own door handles. And then one day through the punk rock scene, we hear about bands like the Stray Cats or Hot Rod Trio or Cadillac Angels, which were these kind of rockabilly, retro 50s kind of music, but they had this edge to them that wasn't the regular like Beach Boy music or Jan and Dean type thing. It was more raw, more edge. And so because we were so involved in music, we started investigating, well, where did this come from? Well, when you start investigating, you start learning about hot rods. And then we found out that we didn't have to have the shiny paint. We didn't have to have all the chrome. You literally could go out and buy, at that time, and this is now in the mid 80s, you could go out and you could buy a Model A 5-window coupe for $400 or $500 that was rusted out that nobody wanted to deal with. And through horse trading and talking to people, you could literally piece a car together for about 10 grand. Well, at that time, Volkswagens and mini trucks were huge, and the Japanese were coming over and buying all of our Volkswagens and our mini trucks and taking them back to Japan because they didn't have anything like that there. And so we were able to sell all our Volkswagens and sell our mini trucks and take that money and start building hot rods. Well, then building hot rods, we found out, well, if you'd use Model A wishbones or 32 wishbones and an original dropped axle and a flathead, you can piece this car together. And because we were DIY and punk rock, all these clubs started showing up, like the Lucky Devils and Road Zombies and Sacred Carts and the Shifters. It all started in Southern California, which is where the birth of hot rodding is. And so now you had these guys that were building these cars, and it was the only car to drive. It wasn't like you had a backup car or a pickup truck. So when you went to the punk rock show, you showed up in your chopped 5-window Model A coupe or a 32 5-window or a Roadster. And now the cars started gaining more attention because they're all parked out front while you're inside, in the mosh pit, slam dancing and going to punk rock shows. And then certain people are really, really good artists, people like Von Franco or Doug Dorr or people like that. And they start doing this amazing pinstripe artwork. And we start researching Big Daddy Ed Roth and Von Dutch and all these other people that have been so influential in putting the hot rod scene kind of, who were there at the beginning, who got it all going, and all the B movies, like Hot Rod Girl and Hot Rod Drag Race, and watching all the B movies, and it just completely exploded. And by the late 80s, early 90s, it was huge. You started having these huge conventions like Viva Las Vegas is probably the biggest one, where it's 3 days of nothing but rockabilly and all kinds of different music and fashion shows and vendors and a huge car show. And it was all in the Shifters, which is one of the original greaser hot rod car clubs from the 80s. They're the ones that were in charge of the show at Viva Las Vegas. And from then, it's just gone worldwide. And so me being involved in music so much, because I had so many friends that played music. I can't play music at all. I can't sing, but I'm really good at promoting and looking down the road and going, hey, if we put this group of people with this group of people and put them together, now we've got something that nobody's ever seen before. So let's throw that together and let's see what happens. And then you bring in the art aspect where you've got these amazing artists coming in. And before you know it, you literally have like this, I don't know if it's like a 3-ring culture circus, but you literally have this amazing, you have this really amazing music. You have these amazing cars and you have these amazing artists. And then you have all these people from all different walks of life that come together with this common interest. And one of the people that you've interviewed in the past that I've become friends with is Bruce Meyer. And Bruce Meyer, I think, hit it right on the head when he said the cars, no matter what it is, the cars are definitely a part of the scene, but the main part is the people. The cars literally act like a vehicle and bring these people together that are like-minded. And at the end of the day, if you're a gearhead, you're a gearhead. That's all that matters. And so that's kind of always stuck with me with bringing in all these different aspects of everybody. And that's kind of how it all just got started.
You know, what's really cool about all this is it's everything old is new again. When you think about that period of time, your generation, it was what happened in the 50s after the war.
Correct.
But it's done in a different, more modern way at the time, and it all keeps evolving. And you mentioned Bruce has been a guest on the show a few times. I just ran into him down a few weeks ago at the La Jolla Concours. He had a beautiful Duesenberg, which I had to stop and go, wait, Bruce Duesenberg? I mean, I'm sorry. I knew you had a Duesenberg, but it doesn't fit with him. He's an old hot rod guy and a Porsche guy. And then I saw him a week later at the Luftgekult Air Water event and had a car there. He and Bruce Canepa comes from that era as well. So yeah, this is all really fun. And the fact that you've wrapped all this into your life, you know, first people think, oh, a shirts adjuster. Really? Boring? Yuck. You know, but and no disrespect at all. However,
no, not at all.
The reason I wanted to have you on the show is you figured out how to wrap all this car stuff into this life. And you mentioned Bruce and all the other people that you've encountered and many people that you're friends with that have been guests on this show. Is there a key person as you've evolved through this that's been a key mentor or really a driving inspiration for you?
You know, I don't think it's one person individually. I think it's a group of people. There's people that I've had the very lucky to meet, somebody like Malcolm Smith. Malcolm Smith was probably one of the most famous motorcycle racers that's ever lived. He's still alive, has a huge dealership in Riverside with a museum that's absolutely amazing and that's free to go to. I had the pleasure to meet him at one of the Quail motorcycle vintage shows that they do once a year.
That's a great event, isn't it?
It's amazing. And my father and I got to show one of his bikes that he restored. It's probably been 5 years now that we got to do. And so we got to meet all kinds of famous people there and awesome motorcycle people. But to get back to your question, it's not just one person, it's multiple people through my entire journey so far. I mean, I have really close friends here in Phoenix that are becoming to be amazing car builders that we've all known each other since we were 15, 16 years old. And we constantly push each other to do better and be better. Obviously, my father was a huge influence. He was one of those people that he was like, never stop learning, try to learn every single day something new. My first job I got because of my first car that I built. At that time, he wasn't my boss, but when my boss saw the car, he was like, "Who built this car?" And I was like, "I did." And he's like, "Who are you? I don't know who you are. How did you do this?" And I told him, and he's like, "You want a job?" And I got my job, and I worked for him for 15 years. And
wow,
he was the one that taught me customer service and how to take care of your clients and make sure that everything's taken care of and listen intently to what they're asking for. So he was a huge influence. My friends and people that I've known for a very long time, all of them are a huge influence on me because there's so many of them are such from diverse backgrounds. I have a real good friend of mine, Buddy Doogie. He's the lead singer of Hot Rod Trio, who's sponsored by Gretsch Guitars. He's been playing music. He's been playing music forever. I've known him for 30 years. He's a huge influence musically wise because he's such a vast knowledge of early rock and roll and early music. And then you, on a complete end of the spectrum, is you'll have somebody like Bruce Meyer, is a titan of industry and a self-made man, but is a die-hard gearhead. It's not just about Duesenbergs. It can be hot rods. It can be one of his motorcycles that he has. Then you talk to somebody like Bruce Canepa, who I got to meet through Bruce, and Bruce is an amazing car driver, and a race car driver and has a huge collection, but also is very technically savvy on air-cooled Porsches and racing. And then you can go all the way down to the guys that I'm in the club with, the car club that I'm in that was started in Phoenix in 1953. One of them works at Lockheed Martin. Another friend of mine does just construction, but all these guys bring stuff to the table that you would never think would be applicable to car stuff. And before you know it, it is totally irrelevant. So it's not just one person for me. I try to surround myself with all kinds of people from all different walks of life, different social and economical backgrounds, racially different from me, because I have a couple friends that are lowrider guys, and those cars are just blow me away every single time I see them. The amount of work that goes into those cars is far more than any hot rod could ever be built. It's just crazy. So that's what I try to do. It's not just one person. It's like literally like it takes a village to raise a child. That's kind of how I try to do stuff.
All fun stuff. And you point out an important thing. and you've said it in a couple ways here today. It really is the cars are the catalyst that bring all its people together and
Correct.
make this whole thing. And it really overcomes all socioeconomic, political, gender, whatever it might be. All that goes away when car people get together. Yeah, it's all such fun. I want to talk, though, a little bit about challenges, because one of the reasons I bring up asking my guests about a huge challenge they faced, it could be in regular life or the car world, is that we all go through these things, but they become really valuable learning lessons if we look at them that way. Was there one of those in your life as you were kind of building this life and career around the automotive sector?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So in about 2018, I was working at probably the most premier, highest prestige collision facility, auto collision facility here in Phoenix. And so we did Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Lexus, Mercedes, very high-end cars, very high-end clientele. And the insurance business was getting to the point to where they weren't understanding what it took to repair these cars. And so to give a brief example, when you tell an insurance adjuster, hey, I have this bag of rivets from Mercedes, it's $3,000 for this bag of rivets. And he's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
He's like, why? And I said, well, because they protect against galvanic corrosion, because I'm, panel bonding two panels together, because that's what Mercedes says you have to do. And he says, I'm not paying for that. You can go down to Home Depot and buy rivets. And it's like, no, you're not understanding. I have to do this because Mercedes says this is the way you have to repair this car. And whether you pay for it or the customer pays for it, somebody is going to have to cover this, because we as a facility are not going to do a subpar repair. As the insurance companies got worse and worse and worse and about how they wanted to repair cars and trying to dictate how a car needs to be repaired as opposed to the way the manufacturer says it has to be repaired, I was seeing the handwriting on the wall that it was just going to get more adversarial and harder for people to understand. And the technology was moving at such a fast rate that the insurance companies were just not understanding what it was taking to build a, repair a car correctly. And also with technology happening with airbags and proximity sensors and everything else, that, you could have a car come in and it'd have $15,000 in computer equipment. Yeah. We haven't even started on the sheet metal or paint or frame repair. So now the car totals out. So now a car is becoming more of a disposable throwaway item as opposed to keeping it and trying to repair it. So seeing all of this on the, kind of handwriting on the wall, it was like, I'm not going to make it to retirement in this career. I'm going to have to do something. And I didn't want to give up the career. It was the career that I had spent 30 years putting together and getting to the top of the game. And finally, my wife is a professor at ASU, and she was telling me about a program within their digital part of the college called the Cronkite Center. Oh, yeah, and they had a degree program for digital audience strategy, a master's program about how to deal with digital advertising, digital marketing, how it's going to change the face of how businesses are run and how they do advertising. And I've always been intrigued by marketing and how to get in front of people that you want to get in front of with whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's a show you're promoting or your business or something like that. And so I thought about it, and she says, you should write an entrance letter. And I'm like, there is no way they're going to take a guy who's been in the body shop business for 30 years with a 15 or 20-year-old bachelor's degree. There's no way they're going to accept him into a master's program. And she's like, I'm telling you, write this letter. I wrote the letter. In a week, they contacted me and they said that you're exactly the person we're looking for. We're looking for somebody that wants to retrain because they realize that their current career is either not going to get them any farther than they want to go, or it's literally going to
disappear.
Disappear, be sunsetted. And so I applied, they accepted me. And so it was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to do in my life, was to literally walk out of a career that I was at the top of my game of and basically become a college student again and start all over from the ground floor and work my way through the degree program and then try to land a job as a brand new newbie, trying this whole new world that I had never really had any exposure to. And it was really hard to do, but I'm finally to the point now where I'm kind of in the mix. I'm not, by no means am I the expert, but I'm finally in the mix, and it's really, it's so interesting, the new career that I have, because there's so much to learn. And this career is so much faster paced than anything I've ever been in. Within a week, stuff that you thought was current and on top of the game and was like the latest thing is completely gone. It's not even applicable anymore. And so you have to be really good with change and change quickly and be able to pivot. And so I think a lot of businesses are starting to learn that digitally, and then there's others that are not. And so me trying to bridge the gap between this custom car, hot rod, gearhead world into the digital world, a lot of people that own shops or own businesses kind of have an idea that it's important, but they don't realize how important it is. And because cruising the internet, as I like to call it, is huge now. When you were building cars in the 80s and 70s and 80s, all you had was Hemmings, the big cardboard
the Bible
book.
They called it.
The Bible, exactly. And you had to go through pages and pages and pages to try to hunt down what you were after, or you had to go to swap meets and walk the aisles or talk to people and put the word out of what you were looking for. Now, Google's your best friend. You literally can go on Google and there's eBay and there's Bring a Trailer and there's just tons of discussion boards for anything that you could be possibly into. And there's this whole community that's brought together that basically helps each other out. Hey, I've got a 32 Ford and I need a set of wishbones that are not cut. Hey, I've got a set, I'll ship them out to you, type thing. It has completely changed the whole face of the automotive world, whether it's custom car building or collision repair or appraisals or putting shows together like the La Jolla event that you just went to. I mean, forever, it's going to change everything. And so I want to bridge that gap between the digital world and the gearhead world to make it easier for everybody.
My hat's off to you for doing something very brave, because most people, as their industry starts to peter out, there's an old word, peter out, they just hang on and they keep hoping it will go back, and it never goes back. And especially today, as you said, this fast-paced world. So I'm really, really proud that you did this, because super difficult to do. And as you get older, it's even harder. However, it's possible.
Yeah.
And the fact that you just have to face it and then get out there and do it, you dropped a nice golden nugget for anybody out there. And I've had a lot of people on this show that were in a career that either was doing that or they just weren't happy, and they love the car world. And by listening to guests here on Cars Yeah, they said, wow. And I ran into a few when I was at the Luft Air Water event that came up and said, thank you. You changed my world. I listened to Ron on your show and I realized, even though I'm in my 50s, I can still change. I can pivot. I can move and become something new. It's possible. And I'm not a dinosaur. I'm not going to be left behind. I just need to be willing to try something different.
You literally have to, swallow the biggest, sourest pill that you've ever taken in your life. You have to swallow it and just, another kind of thing that we used to say in racing was man up, like either pin it to win it or get off the track type thing. And I wasn't willing to just be pushed to the wayside. I knew that the one career was not going to go where I wanted it to go, where I wanted to go. And this whole new digital frontier was something brand new. And I have such a love of cars and hot rodding and anything that's mechanical. It was like, I don't want to give that up, but there's got to be a way to make that relevant, not only to my peers, because I think we're all kind of in the same age group, but to the younger generation that's coming up behind us. And I'm sure that's one of the biggest discussions in the entire car world right now is how do you get the younger, Gen Z and Gen Y and millennials, how do you get them involved in the car world? And it's not that there's none of them. They're just so much smaller. Gen X is like the last big group of people that are into cars. After Gen X, which is what I am, after Gen X, it gets very, very small. And so how do you appeal to that group of people? And so you see like the JDM movement and tuner cars and stuff like that. That is all that is 21st century hot rodding. When you really boil it down, that's exactly what it is. It's their version of a hot rod.
Well, and the even bigger group was mine, the boomers. We had the largest volume of people going through retirement and that age in the history of the United States that built that car thing. And we always used to worry back in my previous job, I would say, well, when these guys start to age out, which they're doing now, gosh, did I just say I was aging out? Don't say that, Mark. It is what's behind and who are behind and how many of there are. But the thing about the boomer generation was the volume was massive.
Correct.
I mean, so many people. But again, it's nice to know, and I've learned after, 10 years now, coming up on a 10-year anniversary here on the 28th of May, that there are plenty of people that love the car world. And I wanted to talk about a special vehicle of yours, and you sent me a very cool picture of a car you built, a 32, right?
Yeah, I have a 32 5-window. That car was kind of piggybacking on, your question of like, what was one of the hardest things you did? This was the roughest car that I've ever built to date so far. The car was in 5 pieces, had 227 bullet holes in it.
What?
In the low, in the
Was it
lower
out?
6 inches.
Was it out in the desert somewhere? You being used as target practice?
Yeah, it was there. It was buried in the Four Corners area. So for people who live on the East Coast, they may not realize what that is. The Four Corners area is where Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah all come together. State line.
Yeah,
There's actually a little park.
Actually stand on in all 4 states at one time.
That's exactly. Yeah. And so in that area, it's very desolate. There's not much there. And that the car was buried in a wash with a couple other cars. And a gentleman here at the time who was living in Phoenix at the time unburied them, brought them all back to Phoenix, and then sold them all out to people, locally. And my car went to one of the longtime hot rod guys here in Phoenix, Ron Olmsted, who is another person that has been a huge influence on me just for how long he's been building cars, and just the nicest person you would ever meet. And eventually he decided that he was going to cut it up and turn it into an extra cab pickup. I'm like, you can't do that. It's a 32.5 window. We got to save it. And he's like, well, you put the money together and I'll sell it to you. And so I put the money together and went and bought it from him. And he put my money in an envelope and he says, I'm going to hold this for 1 week. He goes, you have a week to make your mind up. And he says, if you decide you think you made a mistake, just bring the body back and I'll hand you your money back.
Nice.
Yeah. And I called him 2 days later and said, no, I'm keeping the car. I'm building it.
Wow.
And it was about a 13-year journey, all said and done, to make it to where it is now, where it's, painted and got the upholstery and it's pretty much a done car. But for years and years and years, I drove it with all the rust and all the bullet holes in it. But it was a super reliable hot rod. Like I could drive it to Austin, Texas and back for the roundup, or I could drive it to Viva Las Vegas, or drive it to LA Roadster Show or Grand National Roadster Show in Pomona, and drive it all over the Southwest. And I put tons and tons of miles on it. And when 2018 happened, when I started to change careers, it was like I'd finally gotten all the metal work done on the car with help from friends. And it was like, okay, it's time to pull this car apart and actually paint it and do it. And so while I was doing the master's degree to retrain is when I pulled the car apart to do all the bodywork and paint. And it was the last car I got to paint with my dad. And so that car has been a huge influence on me. And it's something that I'll never get rid of, just because of the trials and tribulations that I went through putting it together, how rough it was, the fact that it was saved. And the few people that saw the car when I first was driving it around and they see it now, they're like, they just can't believe it's the same car. And so that car holds a huge place for me. But also the 55 Ford Victoria that I did with my family, it was the last interior my mom did before she passed away. It was a car that I helped my dad do, and I have that car now. And so those 2 cars are probably the biggest influence on me for what I did personally in my building career so far.
Nice. Well, you listeners can go to the Cars Yeah website, find a picture of Ron and that beautiful 5 window there on his show notes page. So check it out. Beautiful, beautiful car. Better story though. I mean, I love stories like that. That's awesome and really cool that you still have that family car, the Ford Victoria. So I am a bit of a car psychologist.
Okay.
I'm going to crawl into your head here a little bit. If you were reincarnated, pun intended, as a vehicle, what would you be and why?
So it would be kind of a blend of a couple things. It would be the blend of a 917 short tail Porsche, which is what Steve McQueen drove in Le Mans, and it would probably be a Chevy truck. So it'd be like a 917 pickup. Because
oh my God,
the reason why I say that is because when you have a Chevy pickup truck, or a Ford, Ford truck. I don't want to discount the blue oval guys. They're always super reliable. They've got tons of room to help your friends or take your friends with you to something really cool. Or you find that new car project that you want to bring home and start working on and see what you can do with it, how you can save it. So that's one part of me, is that I'm really into helping my friends with their stuff, constantly on the go, on adventures, looking for that new project or that new car part, or going to that new show or that new swap meet or whatever. But at the same time, I can't sit still. I'm going 100 miles an hour constantly all the time. It's very rare for me to sit still. It's probably the biggest complaint my wife has about me, is I can't, she wants to sit and watch the sunset. I can't do that. You can get me for about 2 minutes, and then it's like, oh, there's debris in the pool. I got to go get the net, clean it. And I can't sit still. And so a 917 to me is the ultimate race car. And so it was constantly on the go. It never sat still. It was purpose built to just go fast and get things done as fast as you can. And so when I say I get things done as fast as I can, I don't want the quality to suffer. I still want the quality there as best as I can do, but I can't sit still. So a 917 pickup would probably be the most apt description I can come up with.
That's a unique answer to that question. I hear a lot of unique answers, but that blend, that Frankenstein, is pretty cool. How about a great book you'd like to share with our listeners?
So, with everything that we've talked about so far, there's the large discussion that's going on right now in the car world is print dead? Is print going away? And I don't think print's not going away. Print is going to change. I think print is going to become very specialized. So if you're a hot rod guy, you're going to only read hot rod books or hot rod magazines that are left. If you're a Porsche guy, you're only going to look at, excellence and Porsche stuff and Porsche books, and vice versa for any other hobby. So print is not dead by any means. It's just going to become extremely specialized. And so one of the books that is a huge influence on me was a huge influence on my friends, and somebody who I got to meet and be friends with before he passed away was a gentleman by the name of Don Montgomery. Don Montgomery was one of the people that was instrumental in restoring the Pearson Brothers coupe with Bruce Meyer. He was at the dry lakes. He was at the drag races all in the 40s and the 50s, before World War II, right after World War II. And I think there was 5 books total that he did. And those books are literally, as far as I'm concerned, they are the Bible of hot rodding. They have so much information, so much documentation, so much photography in them of stuff that people haven't seen forever. And so those books are super huge to me. I constantly use them as a reference for whatever it is that I'm working on. And then the other one is, I think it was Brock Yates that wrote his book Hot Rod. Mm-hmm. That's another huge book that has a huge influence on me, and that is a really good read if you haven't read it. That's something, because that brings in the whole hot rod world into racing, and getting to that point to where, people are going to Le Mans or they're going to the Amelia or something like that. And so it all comes back together to just being a gearhead and wanting to push the limits of the machine or become one with the machine. And so those books are the ones that are huge for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Don's books, just a couple of those titles: Supercharged Gas Coupes, Hot Rod Memories, Wild Fuel Altered Hot Rods in the 40s. Yeah, he did some great books that deserve to be on any car enthusiast shelf here.
Even if you're not a hot rod guy, you should still get those books, because that is the birth of racing, as close to when 2 Model Ts met up on the street for the first time. There was automatically a race. That's just how it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so if you're a JDM guy, or you're a Porsche guy, or you're a Duesenberg guy, I'm telling you, get these books. You will be blown away at what these guys are doing. I mean, they're running on bent spoke Kelsey Hay wire wheels, and they're doing 100 miles an hour in the 30s.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so insane to think about. There is no way. And I'm a pretty extreme guy and like speed. I'm not doing 100 miles an hour on a set of bent spoke Kelsey Hay wire wheels. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But these guys did. And so to me, that's just huge. And so any true gearhead is going to love those books.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that back up. So let's go on the Ultimate Drive today. I'm also a bit of an enabler here. So I'm going to provide you with any vehicle in the world, park it in your driveway, and you can take it on a drive. But here's the other key part of this. You can take anybody with you, including somebody who's no longer with us. So what was the Ultimate Drive look like for you?
This question was very intriguing to me, and took me for a long time to try to figure out how I wanted to do it. And what I came up with is, this is going to connect you and I to our childhood. Nice. There was a movie called On Any Sunday, and it was done by Bruce Brown, who was really famous for his surf documentaries in the 60s and 70s. But he was really good friends with Malcolm Smith, Steve McQueen, and Mert Lawwell, who to me are the pillars of both motorcycle racing and car racing. Those guys did everything, and the 2 that are still left, Mert Lawwell and Malcolm Smith, are still doing amazing stuff to this day. And so for me, it would be to grab my Husqvarna, if my dad was still here, grab him with his Husqvarna, and we go ride with Mert Lawwell, Steve McQueen, and Malcolm Smith, and just go ride for the day and have discussions about everything under the sun. Because you could talk to Steve McQueen about acting and about world travel, and you could talk about racing with him with cars, and then Malcolm Smith could talk about his trials and tribulations and challenges doing the ISDE 6-day trials and getting his gold medals. Mert Lawwell, who I think was probably the most universal racer that's ever been, where he was either on a road course on a road bike, or he was doing flat track, or he was doing cross country motorcycle racing, or he was doing what eventually became stadium motocross racing, he was like the all-around racer. He could literally race anything that gave him. And so having a discussion with those guys and riding for the day would be, for me, that would be the ultimate.
Oh man, you're making the hair on my arm stand up here a little bit, buddy. You know, I mentioned being at the La Jolla Concours a few weeks ago. There was an insane 1973 Husqvarna 250 WRT sitting there that a guy named John Hernandez had on display. One of 200 that made it to the U.S. I think only 1,000 were built. And I remember the Husqvarnas, those are what the rich kids had, because most of us were riding Yamahas or Hondas. And the Husqvarnas were like this exotic, you know, like Lamborghini type thing. And they were full monsters. Like if you got a hold of one, you really had to know how to ride. If you didn't know how to ride, you weren't going to go very far. You were going to fall off, because they were just absolute brutes of a motorcycle. And that was where, you know, Honda and Yamaha and Suzuki and Kawasaki really had to start stepping their game up, because these guys were coming over and just completely decimating any race that they entered. And so that's where that innovation and that push came to elevate everybody. And so now it's coming back around again, where Husqvarna's and TM and Gas are coming in, and they are completely changing the game again. And so for me, it was huge. But again, it's only about the machine so much. It's the people behind the machines that really make it. And so again, having that dream ride would just, the wealth of information that would be in that conversation for a day would be insane. Yeah. You and I should have been on the lawn there at La Jolla together, because I was standing there just going crazy over this bike, and I didn't get to talk to John, but another guy came up who was of I'll say my era. I'm older than you, and we were both going, oh my gosh, this was like the dream bike to have back in the 70s, but they were so expensive that you couldn't have one. But you're right. It's the people and bringing back those memories of riding. And for me, riding out by Miramar Naval Air Station, or going down camping on the beach in Baja California, riding up and down the beach. Yeah, good old times. You have brought some good times back to my mind, my friend, and I'm so happy we were able to talk today. I want to do a quick shout out to a mutual friend, Frank Lowbridge, who brought us together. Frank's brought some other great people to the show here. So Frank, thank you very much. Could you leave us with some parting words of wisdom or advice?
You know, I think one of the biggest things that I've really latched onto within the last couple months is I haven't gone to as many car shows or, you know, cars and coffees as I should have. And I'm trying to get better at doing that, because the one thing I've noticed to the things that I have gone to is there's a lot of really little kids. You know, I'm talking preschool, 5, 6, first grade, second grade, you know, under 10, let's say. And it used to be where, hey, don't touch the car, kid. You know, keep your hands off. And I've taken a completely different approach. As if I see those kids come up and they actually show an interest, whether it's the 55 Ford that I bring out or the 32 5 window, if they show a huge interest, I'll be like, you want to get inside?
Climb on board.
You want to sit in it? You climb on board. And so you have no idea who you're going to influence at that young of an age, where they could turn around and be the next AJ Foyt, or, you know, somebody like that just completely changes how racing's done, or they become the next Henry Ford that comes out with a whole new invention in the car world to keep us all safe and make cars better and safer and drive better. You have no idea who you're going to influence or how that's going to change that child's life. And so I'm always really, really big on trying to when I say grab the little kids, if they show an interest, then by all means, get inside the car, check it out, get your photo taken. Want to go for a ride? I'll take you around the block in it type thing. So from that aspect, I'm trying to be better about doing that. And I wish a lot of the other people in the car world would do that, where I still see a lot of people are like hands off. You know, it's like a Fabergé egg. It's just a car. You can fix it. It's not that big of a deal. And so that's the first one. The second one would be is, I know it sounds contrived, but everybody says, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And only recently have I really started to put a lot of effort into Checkered Strip and trying to promote myself, because I'm not the best promoter at myself. I'm good at promoting everybody else, but tooting my own horn is really hard to do. So I'm trying to get better at that, but it really is true. Do what you love. The money will follow. And it's not always about the money. It's about the journey of getting there. And my journey is kind of going, but kind of resetting at the same time with Checkered Strip, and trying to incorporate all of the digital world into the mechanical world, to blend the two together, to bring community together, to expand the community, to promote how cool cars are, car culture is, and that you can literally get a job out of it, a job that will provide for a family or for yourself, get you to retirement and comfortably and still have a lot of fun doing it. And so don't give up on that dream. You may have to delay it for a little bit, but don't give up on it, because at this point, that's all we have other than what we have sitting in the garage. My last piece is when anybody says, oh, you can't build that, or you can't fix that, that's not true. It's just how hard do you want to work to get where you want to be? And that's the biggest thing that was instilled by my parents, was hard work definitely does pay off, and tenacity, not giving up, not taking no for an answer was huge in my family. That kind of pin it to win it. Like, don't give up until you've literally exhausted every avenue that's open or possibility that's presented to you before you have to finally throw in the towel. So that's kind of my thing, is I'm always trying to learn something new. I'm trying to never give up on anything or anybody type thing. It's just, you gotta constantly move forward. You can't sit still. Definitely learn from the past, but don't let it define you. Just move forward and keep moving forward.
One of my greatest and most fun quotes is from Ayrton Senna, the late great champion of F1, and that is, "The past is just data. I only see the future."
Yeah. I was going to say, one of my favorite movie scenes is a movie called The Gumball Rally.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the part where they're getting ready to actually start the race, which was the inception of the Cannonball Run. But there's and I think it's Raul Julia. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he's a pretty famous actor. He's sitting in a Ferrari. I think it was a Ferrari Daytona, if I remember right. And he rips the rear view mirror off, and he's like, "I don't care what's behind me. I'm only worried about what's in front of me." And it's that same type of thing. Like, yeah, you look at the past, but don't let it define you. So.
Yeah. How can people learn more about you, Ron?
So I actually have my website. It's checkeredstrip.com. It's a little dated, so we'll be doing a major update on that in the next couple of weeks. So there's that. I'm very prolific on Instagram, which is Hot Rod Ron. Checkered Strip also has an Instagram page as well. LinkedIn is Hot Rod Ron Carlsten. LinkedIn is where I tend to be a little more, as they say, professional and more driven about the business, whereas Instagram is whatever just happens to run into me that day, or what I'm doing, or something like that. And those are the best ways to get a hold of me. Again, going back to that customer service thing, I'm really good about getting back to people as fast as I can, whether it's email or messaging through Instagram or LinkedIn. So
cool. I'll put all of these links on Ron's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. You can find it right there in case you're out running, driving, walking, skateboarding, riding a motorcycle, whatever you're doing while you're listening to the show. Ron's easy to find. Absolutely. Ron, thanks for taking a quick pit stop with me, being so generous with your time and your expertise and sharing a spectacular story with us. Until you and I talk again and I visit the Cactus Farm, I'll see you down the road.
Sounds good, Mark. Thank you for everything, and awesome job. You keep doing the amazing work that you're doing with the podcast, because they're absolutely amazing. I've started to listen to all of them once a day.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Hey, guess what? Some of you regular listeners will remember back in 2019, I created 10, 11 shows called Cars Yeah TV, where I went to some fabulous locations of past Cars Yeah guests, and we did a TV show about it. Well, they're up on the Cars Yeah YouTube channel. So go check it out at YouTube. Just type in Cars Yeah, and the shows will be there for you to enjoy. I hope you have fun watching. If your car started today, well, thank a tech. If that truck delivering your goods today got to your home or your business, thank a tech. If that airplane you rode in took off and landed safely, and if that boat you're riding in arrived at the dock safe and sound, that's right, thank a tech. One thing the pandemic has taught us is that great techs keep America rolling. They are essential workers and we need them. Support career and technical education by getting involved with TechForce Foundation. It's a Cars Yeah charity of choice. Learn more at techforce.org today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.